back to Fields. Minus 260 to end up in Atlanta now, Joe. 3-1 to remain a Chicago Bear, which is interesting. And then you get to plus 330, the Steelers, 10-1 the Raiders, and beyond. It seems like you see some people reporting the framework of a deal is being worked out. Hard to get an accurate gauge on where things may stand. Some people say the market is cooling off. What's your sense of where this thing can go? And is minus 260 on the Falcons? Does that make sense right now with where we're at?
Well, late last week when things were going haywire as we were about to start the combine there, it went to minus 425 with all the stuff that was going on social media. So things calmed down a little bit. And the Bears number is interesting because they're moving further back. So the numbers are saying he's more likely to be gone. And in fact, I wouldn't even put him as a second favorite, but he's just on the team now. So they're going to make him the second favorite. But yeah, that Atlanta number goes from minus 425 to minus 260. So things have calmed down a little bit. There was one report over the weekend. I don't know if you want to put any stock into it. It wasn't one of the big newsmakers that Atlanta, Pittsburgh have contacted. There was a third team, right, Chris? That's kind of off the beaten path. I want to say
Was it Minnesota or Washington? I think it was Minnesota.
I think it was Minnesota. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be Washington. But yeah, Pittsburgh right there at plus 330. But you're right. We need some of these QB questions to be answered. And we were talking during the break that it's a fascinating spot in the draft after the top 10 because we all expect at 10. So the Bears get their second number one at 9. Then the Jets, everyone expects them to take the best offensive tackle on the board to protect Aaron Rodgers. And then 11, 12, 13, which is why there's a lot of push on McCarthy's being the fourth guy, and people expect him to go to one of those spots because you got Minnesota looking for a quarterback, you got Denver going to be looking for a quarterback, Vegas also looking for a quarterback. So we expect that fourth quarterback to at least go there, Aaron.
Possibly New Orleans as well, Aaron, at 14.
I mean, and that's just what's scary, especially if you're a team like the Vikings who may get rid of Kirk Cousins, take a gamble on that quarterback at the 11th spot. And what if that quarterback doesn't pan out? Like, there's obviously a significant drop-off in talent. I would be a little concerned about that, but also, like, you got to pay Kirk Cousins a lot of money. They've got a big decision to make there in Minnesota. The Justin Jefferson like rumors swirling as well. Like, is he gonna be there? It seems like he will, but a lot's going on in Minnesota.
Yeah, I would think that Ryan Poles, I think, having the market in the palm of his hand should make the move on Fields this week and then be done with it. Everybody knows where they stand, and that will, like I said, set the dominoes off in that Cousins will then know. If Fields goes to Atlanta, for example, which is the favorite right now, okay, the Falcons aren't going to be bidding on me. Maybe the best situation for me, rather than going to New England or Vegas, where I don't trust the offensive coaching staffs in either spot, maybe. Same could be said for the Steelers. Maybe I don't think the Steelers are going to pay me anyway. I just stay in Minnesota, right? I stay in the situation that I know, and I think all of that kind of feeds into the Vikings being the short favorite there as well, Joe, minus 200, that Cousins just stays in Minnesota.
Yeah, at first glance, I was surprised by that number. But as you play this out, let's say Fields goes to Atlanta. Where's the landing spot for Cousins? Like at the end of the season, I was like, oh, he's done there. He's out. Look, just given the situation. And now you look at it like, if it's not Pittsburgh, where is it? And then in addition to Cousins, Chris, I mean, you can obviously provide context on this one or just your opinion on what you want to see happen. I can't believe this Russ number. Russ is a minus 225 favorite to go to your Steelers.
Yes.
So
give me all of that for this season.
Oh yeah,
me too.
Strap in, guys. I might be here a second. Let me start with Cousins real quick because you mentioned where else. The one thing that would make sense to me is Denver at 14-1. Like, does Peyton want somebody who he can trust? He goes out, gets a veteran quarterback on it. The Broncos are willing to pay, right? Now, they've already extended a ton of money to Wilson that they're going to have to pay him either way, but I think they might be willing to do that there to prove that they're in. That is one I would have an eye on at 14-1 for Cousins. But to bring it back to Russ. My God. Minus 225 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think there's two reasons for this. One is the path that we just laid out is, okay, let's say Fields goes to Atlanta, where he's favored to go right now. Let's say Kirk stays in Minnesota. Well, what's next for the Steelers? It's run it back with Pickett and maybe Rudolph, or go out and get somebody. Now, I will say this. They don't have to pay Russ anything. They could pay Russ minimum wage. Russell Wilson could go to an Aldi and get paid more than he has to get paid to wherever he goes next, because the Broncos are paying everything, and anything that team pays him is just an offset to that salary. He's going to get paid what he gets paid in its entirety by the Broncos. The checks will still have the flying Bronco head on them when they show up in the direct deposit every 2 weeks or whatever it is. The reason that makes sense for the Steelers is Art Rooney doesn't want to commit money to a quarterback. He doesn't. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't want to commit big money to a quarterback until they know, which is probably part of the reason they've cooled a bit on Fields as well, because you're going to have very limited runway for deciding what you want to do with Justin Fields. And for that reason, I hate it. That may be the direction they go. I am not a fan of that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hell, I'd rather run it back with Pickett and Rudolph one more year than bring in Russ. I can't. Russ,
you know what that is. You know what that is. What do you?
Yeah, that's the problem. I know what Russ is. Or you're saying I know what Kenny and Rudolph are.
I'm saying you know what Kenny and Rudolph are. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything.
Well,
if it's terrible, it's terrible. Then you can get your next quarterback. You guys are just stuck right now.
I do not need a Steelers country. Let's ride. I don't need that in my life right now, Joe. I don't.
So that's
need,
why.
Just don't. I don't need Russ. Like that. That is such incremental. He is a husk of himself. He is no longer that dude. Aaron, please explain to Joe why I don't. You're going to tell me I need Russ in my life. I need Steelers.
Yes.
Let's ride.
I don't like Russ, but maybe he's, this has all been a very humbling experience for him, and you're going to get something out of him.
The wishful
Kenny
thinking
Pickett
in that
has
statement.
shown flashes, but yeah, I don't think you can just depend on running it back with the Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph experience again.
No.
Why not? You laid out a great case for Russ to Pittsburgh, Chris.
You did.
I'm buying that.
You didn't.
I love it.
Well, that's why the odds are what they are. I mean, that's why it's minus 225. Established veteran quarterback. They try to squeeze a little bit more out of him in his last couple of years, and they don't have to pay him a dime. It just makes too much sense. So I understand why the odds are what they are there in relation to Russell Wilson and the Steelers.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I am not saying you get Russ and you're a different team. You're on a different tier. You're going to win the division. That is not what I'm saying. I'm purely saying this for my entertainment. That's all I care about at this point. I know he sucks. I know he's not a top 12 quarterback anymore in this league.
You just want to watch me lose my mind every single Monday.
Yes. Yes.
We want to see you suffer.
It would be a lot of drama. It would be so much entertainment for me just to see Steelers
Tomlin
fans
and Russ on the sidelines.
Oh,
yeah. Give me all of that.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. And they didn't like the way we characterized a loved one of theirs. So let's rewind just a bit. I told you we've been counting down to opening day, right, guys? Like we've been doing MVP markets, and Cy Young markets, division winners, futures. Today, for example, at 10:20 Eastern, we'll do offensive stat leader categories. Another countdown to Major League Baseball opening day. And as we were talking futures one day, I believe, was it Paul, I think, said, hey, you know what? What about, I have an idea for home run leader. What about this? You remember him from the White Sox? He's with the Marlins now. Jake Burger for home run leader. And that led us down a path. This is a GTFO. This is a total GTFO.
Oh!
This guy's swing and miss rate is through the roof. His strikeout rate's up around 30%. He plays in a Costco without the sculpture in center field anymore, where home runs go to die. No, thank you. I'm out on Jake Burger. Plus, you mentioned the health factor too. Don't step on, I don't know, a slippery spot where the Sweet Baby Ray's was left on the floor from the night before.
Exactly. GTFO. All you have to do is Google this guy. He looks like the most unathletic baseball player that I've ever seen. I would not put my money on him, even at 120-1. He looks like he's just been eating burgers, living up to the
You
name.
guys are insane.
Okay, you ever heard of Cecil Fielder? How about Kyle Schwarber?
Rob Deere?
Come on, most unathletic baseball players, literally all these guys.
Whoa.
All right,
Strikes
come
out.
on.
Panda?
Home run hitters
Wait.
strike out. That
So
minute
much.
helped us the whole week.
Yeah.
Someone in particular took offense to the characterization of poor Jake Berger as just an unathletic beer league softball slugger, right? As Aaron and I kind of went in on the swing and miss rate, and hey, he looks like he's had one too many burgers. And we're not sure if it was because his name was searched directly on Twitter or if it was because a Jake Berger super fan alerted someone to it. But there was a
Who
response.
does follow me? That super fan.
Okay.
does follow me,
So
that
this
tells
White
us all.
Sox Jake Berger super fan follows Joe on Twitter, must have seen a retweet of that bit and said, it's pretty cool these experts are making fun of a guy that tore his Achilles twice but still made it to the big leagues. Maybe if they had an ounce of the work ethic Jake Berger does, they'd be doing something else other than an internet radio show that no one listens to.
Yeah.
To which Ashlyn Berger, yes, Mrs. Jake Berger, responded, I hope my son, who watches how hard his dad works, never has to hear people say his dad, quote, looks like he's just eating a bunch of burgers. Oh, my. We became aware of that one, Friday afternoon, right, guys?
Yeah.
And
I saw it in the mentions, and I was like shocked for a moment. I'm like, wait a second. Did this just happen? And I said it to you guys. It was like right after our show. I was like, oh boy, this is on you. It's on you too, not me. For once, not my fault.
Standing arm in arm with his teammates, Joe Ostrowski.
I'm just saying what I said to you guys. That's all I'm saying.
First of all, the burger comparison, that's like a first grade joke. Are you sitting here telling me he's never heard that before? It was not original. And yeah, he doesn't look athletic, and I'm not betting on Jake Berger at 120-1 to do anything on March 4th or March 1st. Like, no.
And there's
I'm
your original
sorry.
context, yes.
And by the way, I'm going to bring it up. Her son is like basically a baby. She's not watching him take BP and do all these things right now that he's not going to remember how hard his dad's working right now. That was a bit outlandish. Like, come on.
Well,
This is
she was trying to
wage
shame us.
entertainment.
Yeah.
You need to relax. Your husband's in the spotlight. You should be lucky he's getting some coverage right now.
Yeah. Let's get to Paul's response to her.
Yeah,
Because
so-
that's
so-
where
This was the part that was maybe the most entertaining for me, was Paul texted all of us and said, I have to say something. I have to do something. I have to clap back. And Paul responded and said, eating a bunch of burgers is not a negative for our squad. You're welcome to come on the show, Ashlyn. The entire premise of the topic was making the case for him to lead all of baseball in home runs. Gonna be tough to find another show that's making that bet. We saw this and we said, Paul, what an amazing defense of your friends. And then she deleted her tweet. She deleted it. Paul, you got Ashlyn Berger to delete her tweet.
Paul wins.
Oh, I just feel like we have a lot in common. Like, she's got a toddler. I have 3 derelict children. I have to babysit every single day. And sometimes, you can't control everything they say or do. And, you just got to defend them a little bit. I mean, like your point, what you were saying, find me another show that's talking about Jake Berger in any capacity
Nobody.
close to this. Like,
Nobody.
this is coming from a place of love. So, grow up. All right.
His name came up in conversation to lead Major League Baseball in home runs.
Right.
Like you said, there's not a Miami-based sports show talking about that. I don't care how big of homers they are. But we're hunting for value, and some people on the show see that there's value there. Like, she had no idea. And by the way, like, look, injuries are fair to bring up with your husband.
Yeah.
Because he was drafted in 2017 and he made his major league debut in 2021. Why? Because he gets hurt every single year. Even after the Achilles ruptures, which, by the way, happened twice, happened 3 months apart from one another. Like, that's a concern. And if you look up his injuries the last couple of years, leg, hand, oblique, quad injury. It's everything. That is a legitimate concern while you're talking about making a bet like this, because you need him to be healthy the entire season. And his 141 games that he just played this past year, by far the most of his life. So chill out, Ashlyn.